Hello, and welcome to Living Beyond Limits. I am Reverend Jennifer Spear, and we are a part of Centers for Spiritual Living, and I'm so glad that you have joined us today for this online service. And so I'd like to begin our service today by actually inviting you to close your eyes for a moment and to hold in your mind's eye somebody that you love and care for. Perhaps it's somebody who's having a challenge in their life or having a difficult time. And to send them some of your love. To see them wrapped in the energy of your love. Lifted by that love. And to actually see in your mind's eye that person standing in their own authentic power and in their own inherent wholeness. And to know that as you do that, you are actually sending that person a blessing. How wonderful it is to get to participate in blessing each other. And so as we begin our service today, I'm going to invite our practitioner, Ray Bunch, to come forward. He's going to lead us in an evocation as we begin to evoke an awareness of the presence of Spirit that is always right where we are, and do a contemplative reading for us. And so I invite you just to kind of begin to settle into yourself, into your own beingness, and to allow yourself just to kind of slow down.
Well, just continuing to slow down, see if you can come to a complete stop. Let your mind have a few minutes off. And if it's still going, just let it go by itself. Take your consciousness from there and move it to the center of your own beingness. And as we become more and more aware right here, we sense and feel that biggerness, that something that is more than I am, that thing that is sometimes way past words, that is always with us, that we are in fact made out of, and all of our ancestors and all the life that streams from them to us is made out of. All the animals and critters and bushes and even the mosquitoes and bugs that we don't particularly want to have around us are made out of the same substance that I like to refer to as the living Spirit. And when we come to this place, we can open ourselves and allow this living Spirit to communicate to us in many different forms, in many different belief systems, in many different ways. And it is our responsibility to be able to hear it, or feel it, or become aware of it, or be nudged by it, to allow it to move us. So today, as this service starts, I am inspired to tell you that I know that the words that are spoken here today are absolute truth. That the fullness of life is here with us, expressing through each and every individual that's talking here, entering into your life that is with us also right now. For there is truly only one life, and that's God's life. And I take that source and that energy and that intelligence, and I bless everything that's taking place here. I bless all types of religions, and I particularly bless fathers today. And the male energy. And I bless the mothers that are being called to be fathers today, and to contain and use that male energy that also resides within them. And I just say thank you, God, and so it is. I want to tell you that this reading I'm going to do today is very important to me, and it talks about a subject that I feel is very, very important for all of us to understand. What does it mean to be a complete man in today's society? Before these times, an evolutionary perspective of men have had three main tasks: protect, provide, and procreate. These principles became the epitome of masculinity and later developed into male virtues that cultures across the globe shared. The ability to abide by these virtues was what made manly men. One of the biggest problems of men in today's modern world is a crisis of identity. A lot of men are left without any real direction to guide them in their life. This comes from the shakeup in our society over the last century. Most of those have obviously been very good things for everyone, but it still has resulted in a generation that is unsure of their place in that world. There used to be a set of rules in place to direct what meant to be a complete man. But now, things aren't so simple. Fortunately, becoming a complete man is still something that can very much be attainable. You just have to be willing to look inwardly and make some decisions. See, it's my belief that we've been told from the outside how to be men, and it's finally our time to go within and find that. It's going to change a whole lot, that's for sure. The world is no longer going to guide us through our lives and tell us what to do. This means that you have total freedom to decide yourself. That's hard to accept. You have total freedom to guide yourself. This is, of course, amazing. But it also comes with a lot of responsibility. And it is the responsibility for the finding your own direction that figures it is that responsibility for finding your own direction that frightens so many old and young men. In order to find this direction, we first need to craft a personal philosophy. Look inside yourself and try to figure out what it is that is most important to you in the world. Is it family? Is it love? Is it success? There is no end to this list. Figure out what things mean the most to you and use those as the bedrock for your personal philosophy. This is also something that you should be critical of and adjust as you grow as a person. Your philosophy should guide you, but you should also be willing to change it based on new information and new understanding. Ernest Holmes has a way to say this that I've changed a little bit, because I say, look inside of yourself and find those longings that have been with you your entire life. The desires and the impulses, and let them guide you. And so it is. Thank you very much.
Fabulous reading. Thank you, Ray. It was awesome. And so I'd like to share with you now our mission statement at Living Beyond Limits. And if you know it, I invite you to say it along with me. And if you don't, I invite you just to take it in. It goes like this. We are a sanctuary where people can discover and reveal the presence of God within their own being and experience their oneness with all life. Through the realization of this inner presence of love and peace, we give way to the evolutionary impulse of the divine and become a beneficial presence in the world. And so at Living Beyond Limits, that's really what we are up to. We are about being a beneficial presence in the world, and the way that we do that is by discovering our own spiritual nature, by discovering that divine presence that is expressing itself as our very own spirit. And if that is true, then that means that all the qualities of spirit already reside within us. The love and the peace and the truth of wholeness and innate power and compassion and joy. Because what happens when we come to realize that those qualities are within us, then we can give expression to them. And when we give expression to them, then we bring to the world what the world is thirsty for. Because then we aren't reliant on the world, say, reflecting love or peace to us. We can be the ones that bring that into a situation where it isn't yet present. And as we do that, we model for other people what it's like to be living a spiritual life and being a beneficial presence, and we literally change what's happening around us. And because everything is connected to everything else and part of the whole, we actually affect the whole. And so I thank each and every single one of you for walking this path, the path that your spirit is calling you to walk, and to be being a beneficial presence in this world. Thank you for that. So happy Father's Day, everybody. Today, on Father's Day, we acknowledge and honor our own fathers, or those who played the role of father in our own life. For we have gained much from them, and they have actually played a very significant role in who it is that we have become and who we are today. It is said that mothers teach us how to be inward, and that fathers teach us how to be expressive and how to be outward. For feminine energy is receptive and inward, And masculine energy is expressive and outward. And so fathers teach us how to be bold and courageous and strong. Fathers teach us how to have confidence and how to take charge and be assertive. Fathers teach us to be firm and to be independent. And so, in addition to Father's Day, I also would like to wish you a happy Juneteenth. It's amazing to me that actually Juneteenth this week became a federal holiday and is acknowledged by our entire country. And so if you don't know what Juneteenth is, it is actually called Emancipation Day or Freedom Day or Liberty Day. And it symbolizes the ending of slavery in the United States. For it commemorates the federal government's final execution of the Emancipation Proclamation in the state of Texas, where the very last people that were being held in slavery were freed on that day that it was read in Texas. And that happened on June 19th, 1865. And so it is a celebration of African American freedom. It is a celebration of African American achievement and respect for all cultures. And so today, Juneteenth is celebrated by having picnics and celebrations and public speakers and family gatherings. It is a time of reflection and a time of rejoicing. It is also a time of self-assessment and self-improvement and making plans for the future. Barack Obama said, Juneteenth has never been a celebration of victory or an acceptance of the way things are. It's a celebration of progress. And it's an affirmation that despite the most painful parts of our history, change is possible. And there is still much work to do. And so today, we celebrate Juneteenth also. And so the title of my talk today is All of Me. And so in honor of Father's Day, I'm talking about the masculine and feminine archetypes and those masculine and feminine qualities that exist within every single one of us. That thing that Ray talked about. And so I'm talking about those qualities that live within us, which isn't about gender roles. It isn't about the roles that we play in society or what society expects of us. It's not about how we dress or how we speak or how we are required to groom or what we're responsible for based on our sex. I'm talking about archetypal qualities of the masculine and feminine that live within each one of us. For it is when we recognize and then consciously embody all of those qualities that then we actually get to live an authentic life. That then we get to live a life of freedom when we're free to express all of those qualities that live within us. It is when we embody and give way to and express all those qualities that we live an empowered life, a life that is deeply satisfying. And in honor of Juneteenth, today I am talking about the need that each and every single one of us has within us to live as a whole person, to live our life coming from our wholeness, from the fullness of who we are. I'm talking about that need that we have to express who we are in this world. Not just to express certain attributes that society has deemed are acceptable for us to express, but to be able to express all of those qualities within us. Because in turn, when we are free to do that, then we get to live authentically as who we are and bring that to the world. Ernest Holmes said, "Man, coming from unity, is both male and female, and has within himself both attributes of reality. In some, the male predominates. In others, the female. We have two distinct types of man and woman, but they are types of one fundamental principle. There is also an intermediate sex, that is, one in which the two attributes seem to be almost equally balanced. The greatest men and women of the ages have belonged to this type, for it is a more complete balance between the two, which are really one. And so each of us contain within ourselves those archetypal qualities of the masculine and the feminine, whether we're a man or a woman, because we each contain all of those qualities of the divine, because we are each and every single one of us emanations of that infinite presence, that presence which is boundless. And so Ernest Holmes also said, humankind is the result of evolution. But in order to evolve, we have to have a principle from which to unfold. A principle that contains the masculine and the feminine, that contains all creativity and all possibility. We are evolving from that in this world. And I agree with Ray's reading today, because it seems like in the 70s especially, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s even, and maybe even today, women have been allowed to embody some of those masculine principles. They have come into their own power and been able to lead and be leaders and have been able to stand in their own authority and been in charge and lots of different qualities. And it seems like it's maybe in the last 20 years that men are starting to give themselves permission to embody some of those feminine qualities of softness and kindness and compassion and those things. And so it feels like men are in a little bit more of a struggle, which was part of what Ray was talking about, because it's such the beginning of that. But what happens is when we access those qualities within us, the ones that are still laying dormant, the ones we haven't accessed yet, we are then actually participating in our own growth and evolution. We are then becoming in form what we already are in potential. The image and the likeness of the infinite one. And so I'd like to share with you a list of some of those masculine and feminine characteristics or archetypal qualities that I'm talking about. And so some of those masculine qualities are to be courageous and bold and strong, to be in control or taking charge, uncompromising when necessary, direct, outspoken, assertive, having the qualities of leadership, values logic, takes the initiative. And the feminine are values feeling and expression, caring for others, nurturing, gentle and yielding, soft, tender, flexible, and patient. And so those are some of the characteristics that I'm talking about today while I'm talking about this. So the problem is really we already possess them. The problem is that we don't always access them. We don't always know that we possess them. We don't always give expression to them. And one of the reasons that we don't give expression to those qualities that are of the opposite gender that we are is because they weren't modeled for us. Our parents maybe didn't possess those qualities or have access to them or express them, so we didn't witness that. And that makes us then sometimes not even aware that they live within us. And so if you are a man and you never saw your father be yielding or gentle or compassionate, perhaps you don't even know that those things live within you. Or if you are a woman and you never saw your mother take charge or be direct or be outspoken or assertive, perhaps you don't even know that you can do those things. And the second reason that we don't embody and give expression to some of those opposite gender qualities are because we have been socialized to think that we can't. Our society has told us things like, girls can't be too assertive. And if you are a woman and you are too assertive, you are going to be called a witch with a capital B. Or boys have been taught that boys don't cry. And so as they grow up and become men, sometimes they believe that the only feelings that they are allowed to feel or express is anger. You know, I remember going to my favorite Grandma Margot's memorial service that we had for her. And my brother got up on the stage and was going to read something and talk about her, and he got choked up with tears a couple different times. He apologized 3 times for getting choked up with tears. He was absolutely told boys don't cry when we were growing up. But how unfair is that to say you can't even cry at your own grandmother's funeral? It keeps us from being the fullness of who we are. It keeps us limited. It keeps us living a restricted life, and we don't get to experience the fullness of who we are or have a sense of freedom in the world. Freedom to move and to be and to express. What happens is then we disown certain qualities that live within us because we think they're not acceptable, because we've been taught that they're not acceptable. That keeps us from being less than the full human being that we are. And the last thing that keeps us from accessing and expressing those archetypal qualities of the masculine and the feminine is sometimes we are afraid of their shadow. We are afraid of their shadow because perhaps that's what you witnessed when you were growing up, or we are afraid to actually access and give expression to that because we're afraid that it's going to grow and get out of control, and then it will be the shadow of it. And so let me share with you some of the shadow aspects of some of those qualities that I read to you. And so the shadow of being courageous is being aggressive. The shadow of being in control and taking charge is being controlling and domineering and pushing other people out of the way. The shadow side of being uncompromising when necessary is being stubborn. The shadow side of being outspoken and assertive is not listening to others, being opinionated and inflexible. The opposite or shadow side of valuing logic is being removed from your feeling nature, stuck in limited thinking, and having difficulty expressing emotions. The shadow side of taking the initiative can be pushy and rude. The shadow side of, for the female aspects, the feminine aspects, the shadow side of values, feeling, and expressed is being irrational, uncertain, indecisive, or insecure. The shadow side of being caring and nurturing is nurturing resentment. The shadow side of being gentle or yielding is passivity. The shadow side of being soft or tender or flexible is being a doormat. None of us want to give expression to those shadow aspects of those masculine and feminine qualities. But in reality, as awake beings walking this path, we are responsible and called to practice mindfulness all the time about, are we expressing the shadow of any quality or characteristic that we have? We have to take responsibility for our actions and our words and to be cognizant of how it is that we are behaving in the world. And sometimes it isn't even the qualities of the opposite gender that we are that are difficult to embody and to give expression to. I know in my own life it has been easier for me to be in control, to take charge, to stand up for myself, than it has been to be yielding or flexible or fluid. It's easier for me to butt heads and fight against the person who's being a bully. But what I realized at some point in my life, the reason that those things have been harder for me is because I decided at some point those feminine qualities represented weakness. And I decided they represented weakness because I saw my mother as being a weak person, because she did not stand up to what she needed to stand up to, which was a bully and an abusive husband. So what happens then is I ended up throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And as I've done my inner work through this spiritual path and through doing therapy, I have become so much more flexible and easygoing and fluid and receptive. I don't have to be right, and I don't have to win, and I don't have to fight against. And it has made my life so much easier and so much more peaceful, and things work better. So accessing those masculine and feminine qualities doesn't mean we have to give access to their shadow. That's not what it means. But if you want to live an authentic life, if you want to live as the fullness of the human being that you are, you can't just access half of the positive qualities that live within you. It doesn't lend itself to leading a full life. And so Jason Espada, who is a Buddhist author of many books, said, "In Taoism, the masculine and feminine principles are called yin and yang. These are recognized as two expressions of the one force, or Tao. They are always found together in life. Although we may just see one side, when one quality is there and working in a balanced way, the other is there in a healthy way as well." We're called to have both yin and yang when they're appropriate, because they're appropriate at different times in our life, because that enables us to move through life easier. That enables us the freedom to express ourselves. And so my question to you is, what masculine or feminine quality within you still needs to be nurtured? Close your eyes if you need to and ask yourself, what masculine or feminine quality within me still needs to be nurtured? Which masculine or feminine quality would contribute to my own unfolding as a full spiritual being? Ask yourself, which quality would make my life feel fuller and more satisfying and actually make me feel better about myself? And I invite you to open your eyes. So know that you already possess that thing. It already lives inside of you. It's already part of who you are. Invite it to come forward into expression in your own life. And try it where it's safe if it feels scary. Try it with the people who you know that you're safe with. Visualize yourself expressing that thing in the world while you do your spiritual practice. See yourself acting from that quality. And create an affirmation for yourself. I am, and fill in the blank. I am powerful. or I am compassionate or gentle or whatever it is. And use that as a mantra to just keep repeating that to yourself as you move through your day. Try it on. Act as if it's already fully developed within you. And as a result of that, you'll be living a more balanced life. As a result of that, you'll be experiencing your own wholeness to a greater degree. You breaking free of those societal bonds that have been placed on you that you never asked for in the first place. And you'll be living more authentically as who you are. Then you'll be living a more deeply satisfying and empowered life. And so blessings to you on this path of self-discovery, of discovering your own divine nature and who you are, and to bringing that into the world. Blessings to you on this path of growth and development and evolution and becoming and being who you are. And so blessings to you. And so I invite you to join me in an affirmative prayer. And so I turn my attention to the truth right now, that I am and we are immersed in this infinite presence. That one presence and that one power and that one principle, that thing that we call God, Spirit, life itself, Buddha mind, the Tao, universe, source, whatever we call it, that we are surrounded and enveloped in it, for it fills everything. Every plant and every animal and every situation and every circumstance and every person, including us, is filled with that divine presence. And so right now I recognize that that divine presence holds within itself all of those masculine and feminine qualities. And that presence right now is expressing itself as us, as you and me and everyone around us. That life that is the life of the divine is expressing itself as our lives. And so what I know right now is that presence is unfolding itself within us in the ways that make our life the most satisfying and the most full. That right now, in the light of this perfection and in the light of wholeness, there are no obstructions. There are no blockages. There is just the free flow of the fullness and the wholeness and the allness of the divine. And so I claim and know right now anything then that has seemed like a blockage is now dissolved in this light of wholeness. That anything that has seemed like difficult to express, that belief dissipates in the light that we are the wholeness of the divine, the fullness of the divine, and that it is its good pleasure to express in fullness within us and through us and as us. And so I claim and know that presence then is having its way within each and every single one of us. And as it has its way, the result is we live in a world that is more balanced. We live in a world that is more equitable. We live in a world of love and companionship and human family. And so it is with that I release this prayer into the creative law of the universe, knowing that it is unfolding itself right now simply because we are open to it. And that is what it does. And so it is with a grateful heart that I release this prayer and invite you to join me in saying, and so it is. And so I have a couple of invitations for you. One is next week we will be meeting in the park at Hartwell Park for Sunday service, and we are having a picnic afterwards. So I invite you to bring yourself a picnic lunch. If you want to bring something to share with the group, you're invited to do that also. And I invite you to bring any games that you have that you might want to play with the group. People are bringing bocce ball, and someone has cornhole, and we'll have a great time hanging out in the shade and playing with each other and getting to spend some quality time with each other. Our class starts this week. This is called Keys to the Spiritual Path. It is this Thursday at 12:30 and at 7 p.m. If you are signed up, you can join us. If you have not yet signed up and you would still like to do that, send me an email at livingBeyondLimitsCSL@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that that happens. That means that connection and spiritual practice will not be happening for the next 3 weeks. So we look forward to seeing you after that. Know that we are still participating in Ministry of Prayer, so if you have a prayer request, you may send it to Barbara Conant or email me at our email address. We still have prayer shawls if you would like to be gifted with a prayer shawl, and we are happy to support you in prayer. And so know until I see you next time that you are loved, that you are a part of this spiritual family, and that we hold you each in the light. And so blessings to you.